Lady Gaga.
Vittorio Monti.
The Beatles.
Beethoven.
I'm almost sure you won't get this one now. Little Mix.
Gabriel Fauré.
Well, these all might feel random, or maybe not, but we'll find out how they all connect on this week's episode of
So, Hear Me Out, a podcast from London's Southbank Centre about classical music and the big questions it can help us explore.
I'm Linton Stevens, musician, broadcaster and illustrator.
And I'm Gillian Moore, broadcaster, writer and artistic associate here at Southbank Centre.
Each episode we open with a question that unlocks the music. And we each bring one piece to the table that we think speaks to that question. And today is our season finale, Gillian, and we're asking, what does pop music owe classical music?
Because pop stars have always been magpies, lifting, sampling and transforming the classical past. Charlie XCX draped shimmering strings across her Brat album. Lady Gaga dropped Vittorio Monti's Charda straight into Alejandro. Little Mix built a whole hook out of Fauré's graceful pavan. And the Beatles, they took Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata and flipped it into Because.
I've brought Nas's I Can. It's a hip-hop anthem built on a haunting little piano riff that millions of us know by heart, even if we don't remember where it comes from. That tiny fragment of melody has been echoing through our culture for over 200 years, reshaped again and again, and it's the perfect example of how classical music slips into pop music in the most unexpected ways.
And I've chosen Barry Manilow's 70s power ballad, Could It Be Magic, which borrows from Chopin's Prelude No. 20 in C minor. But depending on your age, you might recognise it from Donna Summer or even Take That.
For me, it was Take That, for sure.
I'm sure.
So whether you're a classical devotee or a pop fan, or just a little bit curious about how centuries of music gets recycled in surprising ways,
join us as we explore the samples, the echoes and the unexpected links between the canon and the charts.
This is episode 8. What does pop music owe classical? So Gillian, in terms of what you were first exposed to, what came first, like classical music or pop charts music?
Well, pop music came first. I'm a child of the 60s. I was growing up with great pop music, with Beatles and Rolling Stones. And, I heard lots of tunes, and only later did I realise that they were actually from classical music. When I'd be sitting in a concert hall I'd be listening to BBC Radio 3 by that stage, and I'd hear them and I'd think, oh, that's that pop song. I'm thinking of things like Sibelius's Fifth Symphony, that big horn tune, which makes it... Yeah, there's a song called Beach Baby, which I think is a bit later in the 70s. And there's an 80s pop song by Strawberry Switchblade, this 80s wonderful Glasgow band. That they used that. I mean, those big chords. The Bach minuets made their way into pop songs in the 1960s. And then there was Mozart's 40th Symphony, which was a kind of disco hit, as was Beethoven's Fifth, a fifth of Beethoven. Yeah, exactly, with that kind of disco beat. So I would hear all these things first, and then it was a great surprise when I heard them in the concert hall.
It's always a bit of a light bulb moment, isn't it, when you realise that it's borrowed from classical, or it was for me. But it was neither pop nor classical for me. So
what was it?
My dad is Jamaican. So all we used to listen to was reggae, actually. A lot of reggae on long car journeys. And my mum loved Motown. So it was a lot of Motown and a lot of reggae in our house, and then pop music from going to school and hearing it at school. And then later it was, for me, actually classical music for me was literally all my immersion into classical music was from adverts. Yeah. So hearing I remember the first piece. It was in the Hall of the Mountain King on the Alton Towers advert, and I was like, "This sounds amazing." You
are very young, Linton, but do you remember the Castrol GTX advert?
That's very kind.
Do you remember?
I don't remember that one.
The Castrol GTX Liquid Engineering was an advert for oil. It wouldn't happen nowadays. It was this beautiful stream of oil, and accompanying it was Mahler's, the horn call from Mahler's 7th Symphony, which I actually heard in concert just 3 nights ago in Glasgow. And everybody calls that the Castro, everybody of a certain age calls that the Castro GTX moment in the Mahler 7.
Well, just thinking about kind of pop stars and classical music, there are so many that actually always surprise me to find out they have their training in classical music. Katy Perry is one of them. She studied Italian opera at the Music Academy of the West in Santa Barbara. Well, Lady Gaga is a perfect example. She is now obviously known for her compelling showmanship and her quite kind of out there style. But she's also a brilliant pianist who apparently was once accepted into the Juilliard School.
Yes, and in fact, at the beginning, her big smash hit, Bad Romance, when was that, 2009? The video version, not the single version, but the video version starts with a very brief snatch of a fugue from Bach's well-timbered clavier. It's sort of very speeded up, and it's really virtuosic and fast and furious. And it just sort of sets that world before, I think, really transgressively going into something completely different with the sort of thumping beats of Bad Romance.
Which brings us to now, to the present day. And I thought this was the perfect moment to connect our conversation to today and highlight how classical music has always been a source of inspiration and influence for popular music too. And I'm going to go first. So I've chosen a classical piece that has been sampled. Well, I found at least 20 different samples, but I've picked one of them, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the others as well. But I've picked one of them because it has a really great message attached to it as well, which links very much to why the classical piece is chosen. And it's by Nas. Now, Nas, he was born in 1973, and he's regarded as one of the greatest rappers of all time. He's the son of a jazz musician, Olu Dara, who was a cornet player and a guitarist and a singer himself. And Nas, in fact, also played the trumpet when he was young, but he was introduced to hip-hop and rap when his neighbour played in records, and that's how he chose to kind of pursue his musical expression. He's hailed as one of rap's storytelling innovators. I love this quote that says, "Before Nas, every MC focused on rhyming with a cadence that ultimately put the words that rhymed on the beat with the snare drum. Nas created a style of rapping that was more conversational than ever." And the piece that he samples is Beethoven's Für Elise in his song I Can. And he says about this song in particular, he says, "It was a groundbreaking period for me. That was the biggest radio record I ever had. It was used by tons and tons of schools for their graduation. And it was a song like that helped him because he has a daughter himself. And he makes a lot of music. And when he was younger, he didn't want her to listen to some of the stuff that he made. And he owed her and other kids something. So he wrote this piece in particular. And he says it's one of the most important records he ever made. And the song was inspired by a request from Nas's mum to create something for children, resulting in this motivational anthem, encouraging young people to pursue their dreams and avoid drugs." Let's have a little listen to Nas's I Can, and then we'll hear how that borrows from Beethoven. That was Nas I Can out on Sony Music Entertainment. What do you think, Gillian?
I just find it so moving because he's addressing his daughter. He's giving her aspiration, and he's using this piano piece, which anybody who's ever learned the piano, it's certainly not one of the first things you learn, but for me, I don't know about you if you learnt it, but it was the first piece of, I'm using inverted commas here, proper music that I played, because it's relatively easy. Certainly that opening.
The first bit is. The first bit
is. But you feel like you're playing real serious music. And I really do viscerally remember the absolute thrill of when somebody put this in front of me, a teacher put this in front of me, and I'd been playing, little ditties about cows in a field and that sort of thing. And then suddenly here's this proper music.
A real
And
piece
I don't know
of
how I
music.
knew it was proper music, but I just felt it in my fingers. I felt it in my heart. And this snatch, which so many kids play, you know, who start playing the piano, who play the piano, is used throughout this song, which is all about, it's all about aspiration and motivating you to work and motivating you to focus on good and important things.
Well,
in
I think
life.
there's so many parallels with the message as well. For me, it was one I learned very early on by ear. So I'm sure I probably didn't play it note for note perfectly, but it's the type of thing that is, because the left hand and the right hand don't overlap lots. It's very easy to pick up by ear. It starts with a very easy trill. Let's hear Beethoven's version, the version that we'll have both have played when we were younger. So that was Beethoven's Bagatelle, also known as Für Elise.
Elise being a person.
Yes. Well,
For Elise. Yeah.
There's a bit of dispute over that, but that was played by Alfred Brendel.
No less.
I mean, yeah, one of the greatest pianists of our time. And you can hear, it doesn't just sample the whole piece. The whole of Nas's piece is built on Beethoven's melody. And I think there's something really incredible about that. He does change it slightly. So, you know, in Nas's version, it goes into 4/4, and he speeds up the second half as well. But then in the first bit, he removes a beat and he slows it down. And then he adds a beat in the second bit as well. It all gets a little bit complicated if we get into kind of the technicalities of it, but it's very much there.
I find it very interesting that actually he only uses the tune, the melody. There's none of that left hand, the harmony. But there's no harmony as such in the piece. In
A lot of it is implied.
It's drums and it's the voice,
vocal,
and the vocal. You get no harmony, but it's exactly as you say. The tune makes you hear the harmony. It makes you think it's there. I think that's really clever,
especially when you get to the ba-da-ba-dim, ba-da-ba-dum,
yes,
ba-da-ba-dum. It's all underneath. But I think it's the simplicity of the Beethoven that lends itself perfectly for this kind of thing. Actually, it's used in a few other places. There are a couple more examples. Let's listen to another very famous version, the Whitney Houston and Deborah Cox, same script, different cast.
Hey Dad. Thank you for being woman enough to come.
Whitney, what's this about?
I know he's leaving me for you. Who said that? Who told you that is true? What is he telling you?
Whitney Houston and Deborah Cox's same script, different cast, out on Sony Music Entertainment.
I'm not sure about that.
Well, uses it in a slightly different way, but
Yeah.
less. Nas uses it to construct his song, whereas Whitney Houston and Deborah Cox use it as a springboard to go into what they want to sing about. You know.
Yeah. Normally for me, Whitney can do no wrong, but I find it a bit soupy, that I must say.
But it's definitely a sample of, there's no
definitely.
question about it sampling the Beethoven Für Elise. It's in there.
It's very clearly there.
Yeah. Let's listen to another example. Let's listen to Sylvester, How Do You Like Your Love? Sylvester's How Do You Like Your Love, released on Unidisc Music Inc.
Sometimes I'm hot, sometimes I'm cool, sometimes I feel so blue.
You're not really getting the harmony either, but you got all
No.
this noise underneath.
But it's very 80s, isn't it?
It's brilliant. I love it. It's got real energy.
But again, you can't deny that Beethoven is the inspiration for the start of that. They've all used it in a very similar way as well. They take that dee-da-dee-da-dim from the very opening of the piece, of the very opening of the Bagatelle, and they use it to open their piece as well. Did you enjoy those samples? Did you enjoy that last one, the Sylvester?
I enjoyed this one more than I enjoyed Whitney Houston, even though I am #1 fan normally.
Well, let me tell you a little bit about the Beethoven. So it was composed in 1810, and there are disputes about the acknowledgement. You said it's, Für Elise, it's dedicated to Elise, but there is a legend that says that possibly his publisher wrote the dedication wrong, and it could have been for somebody called Teresa or another person, Elisabeth Röckel or Elise Warensfeld.
I suppose, but somebody like Beethoven, so many of his pieces are dedicated either to students, pupils, or to kind of rich patrons, because he had to do that to earn his money, didn't he?
Some scholars suggested that Beethoven was trying to hide the word Elise in the melody, which is quite fun, which is all to do with how Germans spell notes, which is slightly different to us. We don't need to get into that. And the opening trill, which is so often sampled in pop music, in the whole piece is actually heard 16 times, which is why I think it's immediately recognisable in and out of context as Beethoven's Für Elise. So let's listen to that Beethoven again, the original place where this melody came from. So I focused on the Nas piece, so let's just hear that back in context in Nas's I Can. So I chose the Nas version because, as I said, there was something about that resonated within me, being a musician and having that aspiration, and taking classical music and bringing it into the mainstream, something that other people would like, my brothers and sisters might like, because they're not massively into classical music, but to hear that reference and to have that theme of aspiration and going for your dreams and, it kind of, for me as well, that element of starting music and striving and aiming to get somewhere with it. It all kind of came really full circle as an example. And I gave a few examples which show this theme in other styles and genres. But the one thing that you'll notice is that all of them have that blast of the main theme at the very opening. And in the Nas, particularly, the harmonic journey, which is implied, is underpinned by the original Beethoven version. It's really recognizable and has that simple, repetitive melodic structure, perfect for looping, and is already, I think this is also an important thing, it's in public domain, which means it's out of copyright, so it makes it easy and free to use as a sample anyway. And that melody also, which is what ties it back into the Nas for me, it evokes, we've both talked about it, an element of nostalgia and familiarity, adding that significant layer of meaning and emotional resonance. Those first 8 bars are so well structured because they can be easily looped and easily played as well. And this makes it ideal for creating something consistent and engaging in a pop piece of music as well. But why is this an important example? Well, it's one of a massive number of popular pieces that reference this piece in particular. So that tells me already this piece of classical music is ripe for sampling because of its popularity to be used in pop music. Pop exists in a much narrower framework or structure than classical. And with pop, it's all about a hook, a memorable snippet of melody or something that can be used to draw people in. And through sampling of classical music, it's done a lot. It's still seen as being in pop music quite an innovative thing and quite clever in songwriting to kind of bring other influences in. And the thing is as well, classical composers are masters at writing melody, so that makes it prime for being used in pop music, I think.
Well, the one thing you can say about Beethoven is he knew how to write a hook.
So, Gillian, I went with a classical hook that's been used in pop music, but you've taken a slightly different approach with your choice.
So yeah, you've taken a melody, and I guess I've gone with a chord sequence, and it's from a piano piece from the 19th century. It's written by Frédéric Chopin. Now, Chopin was a Polish composer born in 1810. He was a virtuoso pianist, an amazing pianist. And the vast majority of his music was written for himself to perform at the piano. And he was going round, he was quite a celebrity in Europe. He was going around the salons of Europe. He lived in Paris, he lived in Mallorca, and he was really quite a major star. So this is one of his set of 24 preludes, very short pieces. Some of them are less than a minute long, with a huge range of style and expression. Prelude number 20 in C minor is only 13 bars long, and on the surface it's really quite simple. It's 3 4-bar phrases plus an extra bar for the finishing chord. But it's so intense. The writer Jean Sand, who was Chopin's partner, said, this little prelude contains more music than all the trumpets of Meyerbeer. Now, Meyerbeer he's not really that well known now, but at the time he was like a really important opera composer who wrote these great, big, grand operas. So let's hear it. Chopin's Prelude number 20 in C minor, played by Alice Sarah Ott on UMG recordings. So another quote about this piece, one writer said, in these 13 bars we have all the suffering of an entire nation, meaning Poland. He saw it as a Polish nationalist piece. It's sometimes known as the chord prelude because really it's all about the harmony. There's not much melody going on there, and the rhythm is very repetitive. In fact, it's just the same rhythm over and over again, 12 times, just that da, 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 da. But my goodness, these chords, that harmony is rich. The chords are complex, they're juicy. I mean, the really powerful thing for me, there's that opening, very grand opening, but then the second phrase, let's just listen to how that snakes down. Listen to this sort of twisty, snaky harmony as it moves down the keyboard. That's how it snakes down. It's that descending bass line, which is traditionally used as a lament. You know, this chromatic
Dido's lament.
Dido's lament by Purcell, going down the chromatic scale, and then we're back to the more solid chords for the end.
Can I tell you what story it tells me?
Yeah.
When I'm just listening to that in a classical realm, not hearing the reference in the pop music, it feels like because the chord progression is repetitive, it already says to me that would be possibly great to use in pop music, which very often uses 4 repeating chords anyway. But just listening to that on its own, it feels like it's full of resistance and then futile acceptance and then death.
Yeah, so the snaking down, lamenting phrase is played very quietly, and then the big defiant chords are played much more loudly. I think because it's got this very simple structure combined with a powerful harmonic flavour, because these chords really have a strong taste to them, don't they? The piece has tempted lots of other composers to write variations on it. So Rachmaninoff wrote a set of variations, Busoni, jazz musicians Bill Evans, Bud Powell, George Shearing, they all used it, they quoted it, they riffed on it, and they helped themselves to these fabulous chords.
Well, we've heard in an earlier episode of the podcast how composers borrow from each other.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, this is a prime case. And then came Barry Manilow. The story goes that Barry Manilow was practicing his Chopin because he is a really good pianist one evening in 1971. And then he went off and he had a couple of glasses of wine and he came back to the keys to write a song. And his fingers just couldn't keep away from these chords. And the result is the song Could It Be Magic? And he fesses up to this straight away in his recording of the song just by playing the opening of the Chopin straight. So this is just him playing the Chopin, and then the song's about to begin. Let's hear the beginning of the song. Barry Manilow's Could It Be Magic on Arista Records. So here, Barry's not using Chopin, but his own chords for the verse. But my goodness, I'm sure they must have been inspired by the fruitiness of those glorious Chopin chords.
Interesting, he moves into a major key, doesn't he, for the verse?
But we need to go on now and hear the chorus, which I think you'll recognise the harmony of.
Baby, I love you, come into my arms. Let me know the wonder of all of you. And baby, I want you now, and hold on fast. Could this be the magic at last?
So it's the chorus where we really get that.
You can really hear that bass line.
We get that descending, falling, and those gorgeous, fruity Chopin chords falling down there. And that's the real characteristic moment in this song.
So clever, because if you didn't know, you wouldn't know. I could have heard those two songs next to each other, that chorus and the Chopin. And I think it would have taken me a good 20 minutes to figure out what the link was, unless somebody said to me, listen to the bass line.
I suppose, yeah, Barry Manilow is quite a very sophisticated songwriter, and I guess he could have come up with these chords himself, but it's once you get to know the Chopin, it's such a kind of characteristic. And throughout there have been a number of lots of cover versions actually of this song, and it's that sort of descending, snaking chord sequence from the Chopin that really stands out. So let's go to the hot summer of 1976 and the queen of disco, Donna Summer, when she releases a version. There's no Chopin introduction like in Barry's original, but we get the disco strings and the beats all over these great chords. Could It Be Magic with Donna Summer on Mercury Records.
It makes me want to get my flares out and have a little dance.
That's the idea. I think.
But again, it's so seamlessly woven into the chorus, especially without Barry Manilow playing the piano. Again, if you didn't bring my attention to the bass line, I don't think I would have known it would sneaked its way into that.
Well, a version that will also, I think, really make you want to dance.
This is the one I remember.
Yeah, and has even more weaving in of the original Chopin. So this is fast forward to the 1990s, and the boy band take that, and I have to confess, this could be my favourite version. Robbie Williams is for the first time taking the lead vocalist slot from Gary Barlow here. They reinstate the Chopin opening chords over the intro. It's miles apart from Barry's solo Chopinesque rendition. It's thundering through under the beats and the vocals. There's such energy. There's such great dancing energy in this, and it's such a fantastic video. So there they are, those great chords again. Take that with Could It Be Magic on Sony Music.
So you've got a few different versions that really owe the whole harmonic structure, which is the kind of bed of the song. They owe it to they owe it all to classical music.
Yeah, I know. These songs couldn't exist. Like the harmony, the structure, those amazing chords. I mean, it's that flavour, which even if you don't know it's there, that doesn't matter. It really, obviously, it doesn't matter because it's
all of the drama and the it's the essence of the song. It owes a lot to classical music.
And that's because Barry Manilow was practicing his Chopin one night in 1971 in New York. So there you are.
So, I mean, even before the song, Barry Manilow owes, his inspiration to classical music.
So there we have it. Take That, Donna Summer and Barry Manilow all take their inspiration from a piece of piano music written by Chopin in the 1830s. So classical music does inspire pop music. What struck me when I was digging into all this is that I came at it backwards. I knew the Barry Manilow pop song first as a kid in the 70s, and then, oh, surprise, it turned up in my Chopin book when I was having piano lessons. And that made me realise it's not really about genre at all. It's just that good material is good material. Barry Manilow keeps this song very close to Chopin in that power ballad. You can picture him at the piano channeling that prelude. But when Donna Summer or Take That pick it up, all that cultural baggage that comes with Chopin evaporates. What you're left with is the raw strength, the flavour of those great chords themselves, triumphant, powerful and used for all they're worth.
And that's exactly why I think classical works so well in pop, because it's so versatile. Whether you are drawing out a melody or a chord sequence, there is so much to work from, and literally hundreds of years worth of material. Beethoven's Für Elise, for example, is so melodic and nostalgic. It carries a sense of longing that we all recognise. And when it's sampled, it immediately brings that emotional weight with it. It's also a cornerstone of piano education. So when Nas uses it in I Can, a track aimed at inspiring kids, it adds this whole extra layer. You've got the theme of learning built right into the song, and then that looped structure of those opening bars makes it perfect pop material. And then in the video, when you see this young black girl playing it on the piano, before Nas's own voice even comes in, it flips all the old associations of the piece on the head, and it becomes, an extra message there about empowerment and aspiration, a message that anybody can own, that this music can be their own.
And that for me has been the joy of this whole series, seeing these connections, these borrowings, and realising that the music never really belongs in one box.
Exactly. Whether it's classical or pop or anything in between, it's all about what the material can do and how it can move people.
So that's it. Our final episode of the season.
Yeah, Gillian, thank you so much. It has been such a joy and a pleasure to explore all of this music with you.
And thank you, Linton, and thanks to everyone who's been listening along the way.
If you've just joined us, do go back and listen to the other episodes in the series, because there is a whole journey waiting out there for you.
So Hear Me Out has been brought to you by the wonderful people at Southbank Centre.
And produced by the brilliant team at Reduced Listening.
Thanks for being here. Make sure to keep listening and keep questioning.
And keep letting the music surprise you.